These demons thrive on pain, and human weapons are nothing but a joke to them. Not even an arrow straight through the eye can stop them. At this point, it feels like nothing can prevent them from tearing down the castle and slaughtering every terrified defender inside. But then, out of nowhere, a mage appears, holding 4 ancient mana stones in his hand. He steps onto the castle wall, calmly inserts the stones into his spellbook, and casts a single spell. A massive magic circle suddenly forms beneath the entire demon army, freezing them in place. Before they can even react, the mage channels the power of all 4 stones and calls down a devastating bolt of lightning, so powerful that the entire army is instantly roasted on the spot. Not a single demon survives. The defenders are left speechless, and forever grateful to this mysterious mage. But he doesn't stay to take the praise. Without a word, he turns and continues on his journey. Because this was never his goal, he's searching for something far greater, the most powerful primal mana stone in existence. So who is this mage, and why is he so obsessed with these mana stones? In a noble mansion, Lord Malik keeps slaves locked away in his basement. These unfortunate people are treated as trash, and because of that, he forces them to polish stones in hopes of finding ones that hold ancient magic. Among these so-called worthless slaves, there is a boy named Alan who has already completed his polishing quota for the day, yet the magic stone nerd still wants to keep polishing even more. The supervisor arrives and begins punishing the other slaves for not polishing their stones properly. He orders them to polish their stones just like Alan's. As the supervisor tries to take the boy's stone, Alan resists and insists that he wants to make it shine even brighter. His stubbornness earns him a brutal kick that throws him to the ground. The supervisor admits that he cannot stand the look in the boy's eyes, while another ginger steps in and starts beating him without holding back. He grabs the boy by the hair, lifts his head, and tells him that he can polish 1 stone for every punch he takes. The bullies continue beating the poor boy until they are satisfied, but just as they are about to leave, Alan acts like a complete masochist and asks for more punches so he can polish even more stones for the day. The little masochist keeps pushing the supervisors to keep beating him until they finally get fed up and lock him back inside his cell. All of this is being watched quietly by an old geezer who sits nearby, focused on polishing his own stone while observing everything. The next morning, Alan wakes up, and the soreness from the beating makes him realize that he might have gone a bit too far and should have known his limits. He remembers a bluish stone he once polished and how deeply he fell in love with it. Alan wants to see more stones like that, and now all he wishes is to keep polishing stones every single day, even if they eventually get taken away from him. As he keeps drifting in his thoughts, the supervisor arrives and tells him that it is time to get back to work. The old geezer from yesterday reaches out his hand to help the boy stand up and checks if he is all right. At the polishing table, the old man chooses to sit beside him, which annoys Alan. Ever since he arrived in this heaven, no one has ever tried to talk to him like this. As usual, the supervisors move around, picking on slaves who are not polishing properly, or even those who are polishing too well, and they take pleasure in bullying them either way. Meanwhile, Alan stays focused on polishing a beautiful purple stone that he has never seen before. He feels eager to see its true beauty once he finishes polishing it. He works on it with full focus while the old geezer keeps bothering him, asking why he was acting like a masochist who enjoys getting beaten. Alan answers that he simply wanted to polish more and more stones. Back in the alleyways where he used to live as a poor orphan, he had nothing to do, and surviving each day felt like a struggle. Over time, he had already given up on his life and ended up becoming like a walking corpse. But now that he is here, he feels fine being treated badly as long as he keeps getting stones to polish. The old geezer finds it hard to believe that someone could be so desperate just to polish a few stones that he is even willing to give up his sleep for it. Alan tells the old man to stay out of it and let him focus on his work. He then keeps going on about how beautiful these stones are. The old geezer, however, looks at one in his own hand and wonders what is so special about these plain pebbles. His eyes suddenly widen when he hears the boy talk about the floating patterns he claims to see inside them. The old geezer quickly leans in and asks if he can really see those patterns, and Alan casually replies that anyone should be able to see them, including the old man himself. This answer makes the geezer smile, and he decides to teach the slave boy more about these stones. He explains that the floating patterns the boy can see are actually traces of ancient magic, and begins telling him about mana stones. He goes on to explain that if these stones are paired with a magic book, the power sealed inside them can be used. The old man then adds that the stones they polish here are mostly low-quality scraps. Hearing this, Alan starts thinking that there might be even more beautiful stones outside this place. The geezer continues sharing his knowledge, explaining that these stones can hold different elements like water, fire, and more. This finally grabs the boy's full interest, and he asks the old man to tell him more and also where he can find such stones. Just as the geezer says that he would first need to get out of this place, a magical attack suddenly flies in and slams the poor old man to the ground. The attack comes from the lord of the house, Malik, who arrives to check on the situation and see how things are going. He threatens the old man and warns him not to get any ideas about escaping from this place. Malik lets out a sigh and says that he did not expect the old geezer to still have enough strength left to even think about leaving. The old man becomes visibly angry the moment he hears Malik's voice. Seeing that reaction, Alan asks if he knows this man. The old geezer replies that the noble is actually a traitor who has been using ancient magic for the wrong reasons. It is then revealed that both he and the mansion lord have been fellow grimoire smiths for the past 30 years. The old man admits that Malik Lambarik used to be a very close friend, someone he trusted deeply. Because of that trust, he lowered his guard around him, and in return, the corrupt grimoire smith went as far as holding a girl at knife point just to steal his magic book. The old geezer is then revealed to be Lord Klaus, and he goes on to say that his former friend has been illegally selling mana stones just to fill his own pockets. Klaus declares that as the leader of the Grimoire Smiths, he will never forgive such betrayal. Malik, however, mocks his old companion and calls him a hypocrite, saying that he only ended up like this because he allowed his worthless grandchild to be taken hostage. He continues to insult him, saying that without his grimoire, he is nothing, even though he once had the ability to use more than 10 types of ancient magic. The old maestro of magic grinds his teeth as he cannot stand seeing his precious grimoire in the hands of someone so corrupt. Malik then reveals that he had planned to use the book himself, believing that he might be able to control its power, but no matter how much effort he put in, he was never able to use the power sealed inside it. The evil lord of the mansion calls both the grimoire and the jewel nothing but trash and throws them aside without care. As the stones hit the floor, they immediately catch the boy's attention. Alan feels a strange pull, as if the stones are somehow calling out to him. The evil lord then says that he now suspects that the maestro's strength might be connected to his eyes. He angrily demands that Klaus reveal how he is able to see the power within the mana stones. The old man tries to resist and make a final stand, but he is quickly overpowered again and has his hands tied. He looks up at the evil lord with clear hatred and tells him that his greedy and corrupted eyes will never be able to see what he desires. This statement enrages Malik, and he grabs Klaus by the hair while calling him a weak and worthless piece of garbage. He goes on to reveal his plan of cutting him apart and using him as a test subject until he finally obtains the power he seeks. The evil lord does not stop there. He picks up a burning candle and throws it onto the grimoire, trying to burn it to ashes right in front of its owner. Klaus shouts in despair as Malik declares that he will make sure the old man never even thinks about escaping this place again. As Klaus keeps struggling to break free, the little boy suddenly jumps straight into the flames, his eyes fixed on a mana stone that the Mad Lord believes is calling out to him. Everyone present thinks the kid has completely lost his mind for stepping into fire like that, but Alan is far too driven to even think about the danger in front of him. Alan quickly moves to grab the stones while the old geezer shouts at him to pick up the book instead. Even when Malik tries to stop him, he does not slow down and manages to grab the grimoire. However, something completely unexpected happens, as instead of getting burned by the flames, Alan somehow manages to control them. The scorching energy pouring out of the magic book resonates with him on a soul deep level. He feels completely enchanted by the dazzling magic stone, which looks like it is the only thing that even exists in the world right now. Malik is gobsmacked, struggling to believe that a filthy peasant could ever wield the power of a grimoire. In that instant, he shouts at the supervisor to snatch it away from the brat immediately. The geezer is genuinely terrified that a mere kid might outshine him by using the very grimoire he himself failed to awaken. Without wasting a second, he pulls out his own grimoire and begins casting water magic to put the slave back where he truly belongs. The water he summoned instantly materializes to intimidate our boy. The poor kid can only stand there and watch as Malik orders the condensed water to crash down on him with force. However, the raging flames wrapped around him instantly evaporate the water, saving the kid. The traitor can only stare in stunned disbelief, completely confused about how something like this is even possible. The slave kid who awakened just minutes ago somehow has complete command over the raging flames. His threat level shoots up in Malik's eyes. No matter how much ice magic he spams, our boy goes full firebender on that fool, nullifying every attack. Watching from behind, Old Man Klaus has zero doubts the moment he catches the look burning in Alan's eyes. Just moments ago, the same kid claiming he could see the flow of magic is now effortlessly commanding his ancient grimoire. That instantly places him on an unprecedented level of genius never witnessed before in this dusty dump. But even geniuses need reps, and this one has zero training or real combat knowledge. So, in theory, it should not take long before Malik folds the scrawny rookie with no battle experience. Worried sick, the maestro yells at him to toss the grimoire over immediately. Alan quickly realizes that is the only real way he can escape this messy situation alive. Wrapping himself in a tight circle of roaring flames, he makes a desperate run for it. Knowing exactly what the kid is trying to pull, Malik refuses to gamble. He forms his largest water attack yet and yeets it at the boy. Alan manages to hand off the book just before he gets blasted away by the incoming attack. At the same time, he chucks the magic stones toward Klaus as well. The maestro snatches them in milliseconds, like he is picking a fly out of the air with chopsticks. Now restored to his peak form, Klaus calmly informs the traitor that his little dictatorship has officially overstayed its welcome. Surprisingly, the traitor does not look that shaken just yet. He clearly had a backup plan ready for a moment exactly like this. The supervisor quickly drags several other kids forward as ordered, but these ones look disturbingly different, with deep scars across their bodies and magic stones embedded directly into their chests. Klaus falls speechless when he fully understands what the traitor did to them. Showing absolutely no remorse, the traitor coldly explains that they were all pieces in his grand master plan to overthrow Klaus. Then, without blinking, he rips the cursed magic stone straight out of one kid's chest, who collapses onto the floor with a heavy, painful thud. Even the cold-hearted supervisor nearly wets himself at the horrific sight. Klaus gets furious, shouting at the traitor for conducting forbidden human experiments, something no sane mage would dare do. rolling the cursed magic stone between his fingers like marbles. The scumbag claims this was always the natural outcome. He wanted power, and these kids who would have died starving in the streets anyway might as well serve a purpose. That messed up line does not sit right with Alan, who freaks out. He snaps even harder when the traitor adds that being part of his experiments is an honor far too grand for lowly plebs like them. Right after that bold claim, the two mages go all out inside the cramped room. But this time, the maestro is the one getting forced backward step by step. Malik flashes a wide grin, finally witnessing the day he outclasses the strongest mage in the kingdom. He tells the old man to just drop dead already, so he can use their bodies for more fun experiments. Alan senses the tide shifting in the worst way possible. He glances down at the red stone in his hand and strains to summon the flames again. He forces himself to recall how he controlled the fire before, vowing he will get out of this filthy mansion no matter what. His desire to see all the magic stones in the outside world takes over, and thick dark flames begin to materialize around him. Both mages turn their heads in shock toward the boy, who makes it painfully clear that he is ready to burn them and the entire factory straight to the ground. The traitor is shook to the core. He has never seen a kid draw out a magic stone's power without even touching a grimoire. Klaus quickly realizes this is the result of unleashing a magic stone's raw power, forcing the user into a berserk state. Malik grows more irritated with every surprise our boy keeps throwing at his face. He tries to snuff out the amateur's rookie flames like they are candles at a sad party. After failing in a pretty embarrassing fashion, he glares at his workers and orders them to handle the loud brat instead. Our boy realizes he needs to thin out his attackers before they box him in. The longer this drags on, the higher the chance the other kids get caught in the crossfire. He calls out to the maestro, asking him to help take out the incoming trash rushing their way. All three mages unleash spells at once, and Malik's goons end up catching damage from the messy collateral. With that opening, Klaus moves fast and escorts the children to safety. That leaves Alan and Malik behind to settle things in a clean 1 versus 1. The traitor throws everything he has left, refusing to lose to a scrawny kid. But his cursed magic stones burn out, and he finally feels the full force of our boy's fire magic head on. Feeling real pain for the first time ever, Malik completely loses his composure. The traitor spits curses and pulls out a new spell that traps Alan inside a solid obsidian sphere. That still is not enough to finish the job, as Alan shatters it from within and locks Malik in a brutal chokehold, burning away the arrogance and ego of the unhinged mage. Watching in stunned silence, Klaus never expected the newly awakened genius to overpower someone on Malik's level. Our boy turns toward him with a small grin and asks if they can finally deliver justice to the crazy scumbag. The mage leader agrees and lifts Malik's body into the air with controlled magic. Just then, Alan starts feeling dizzy as the side effects of overusing his power begin kicking in. The two of them make their way up to the surface, where Alan sees sunlight for the first time in years. He rushes forward, celebrating the simple fact that they finally have freedom and basic human rights. He excitedly shouts that they need to visit the place with the magic stones Klaus mentioned earlier. Obviously, that draws the guards' attention, who are already hunting for the idiot who set the mansion on fire. A few hours later, he finds himself standing in the king's court, placed under formal trial. The judge lays out his so-called crimes against Mage Lord Malik Lambarique in a loud voice. However, since the accused is only a slave, no one bothers asking the jury whether he should be declared guilty. This whole spectacle is just a public show to remind everyone that a slave who steps out of line receives the death penalty without debate. The jury, packed with smug nobles, begins throwing insults his way and shows zero objection to the brutal sentence. Our boy opens his mouth to defend himself, but before a single word leaves his lips, a powerful voice enters the chamber. The leader of all mages, Lord Klaus, stuns everyone with his sudden objection and dramatic entrance. The nobles cannot wrap their heads around why someone of his stature would step in to shield a random brat. His radiant aura fills the hall as he calmly explains that judging a slave without hearing his side is short-sighted. The person he directs this statement toward is not the judge, but the king seated above him. The king argues that listening to a slave's defense is pointless. He questions back why the leader of mages would personally show up for this nobody. Without a pause, Lord Klaus declares that the boy is his apprentice, throwing the entire court into chaos. Never in history have they witnessed a slave awaken as a grimoire smith of all things. Right there before the stunned crowd, Lord Klaus presents a magic book along with a priceless magic stone to Alan. In that instant, our boy understands there is only one real way to turn the room in his favor. He cannot beg them to see him as anything beyond a filthy prisoner, so instead he decides to expose their crimes instead. An NPC steps forward and unshackles our boy while the king states that they cannot afford to miss out on any grimoire users. However, he then adds that never in history has a slave ever become one of them. The other nobles also agree with that opinion and cause a huge uproar as they claim that a trash slave can never become an esteemed grimoire smith. Determined to prove them wrong, our boy touches the mana stone and activates water magic. Everyone gets stunned by the spectacle, and even the king falls silent. Meanwhile, our boy drifts into thought as he looks at the beauty of water. One noble dares to step forward and says that this is all some cheap scam. Before he can continue, Alan shuts him up with his water magic. The waves stop right in front of that noble who now stands frozen and too scared to even move. Our hero calls them out and says that they are shallow people who look down on the underprivileged and asks if they think they are above the law and free to commit murder. Sensing his menacing aura, the noble finally finds his voice and shouts that no one is above the law. With a smirk, Alan announces that there is someone who deserves punishment then. Willing his magic to disappear, our boy reveals that a piece of trash tried to kill both him and the old man. Malik even used children for his twisted human experiments, which is why he should be the one to face judgment. The king calls out to the old man, who confirms that everything is true. He even adds that if it was not for this scrawny young man, he would not be alive. Alan even offers them to search that trash bag's mansion since all the proof is hidden in the basement. He then grows serious as he recalls those children in chains. Pushing the thought aside, he declares that even after all this, if the kingdom still plans to execute him for being a slave, then he will do whatever it takes to survive. No noble dares to speak in front of such a terrifying display of power. The old man then steps forward and calmly asks if the king truly wants a prodigy like him to leave the kingdom. Seeing no way out, the king declares that it would be foolish to do so and immediately ends the trial. He orders his guards to search the mansion at once. After everyone clears out, the king calls out to Klaus and warns him never to let the boy out of his sight. With that, the hearing comes to an end and the two walk outside. Alan thanks the old man for what he did and comments that he looks completely different now. He then teases him and asks if Klaus is some powerful mage. The old man tells Alan to call him master from now on and reveals that he is a grimoire smith. However, our boy does not care about any of that and instead asks about the mana stones and how he can reach them. Klaus tells him to calm down and reminds him that Alan is his apprentice for now. He tells our boy that he will first study all the boring basics and details of grimoire smithing, which nearly breaks his spirit. Getting serious, Klaus explains that the entire continent is under constant threat due to demon attacks, which means only a fool would travel without preparation. The old man says there is zero chance the boy will survive the moment he steps outside. That makes Alan frustrated as he says that he has to find those stones no matter what. He reminds Klaus that he was the one who told him about this world in the first place. The old man sighs and lightly taps his head as he explains that this is exactly why the boy must become a proper grimoire smith. If he truly wants to search for the mana stones, then he must learn the basics, such as how they work and how to classify them. He tells Alan to study at the magic tower, where he will gain knowledge, status, and influence. Only after preparing himself properly will our hero be able to find what he seeks. Klaus advises him to use every resource the magic tower offers, so he never has to live as a slave again. That finally reaches our hero as he realizes that he will be able to live freely without listening to anyone. Making up his mind, he agrees to go to the magic tower but warns that if it turns out to be a waste of time, he will leave without a second thought. Hearing that, the old man smiles and welcomes him to the magic tower as their newest grimoire smith. On Alan's first day at the magic tower, Lord Klaus explains that the tower isn't just the nation's shield against monster invasions. It's also a hub for researching ancient sorcery and studying mana stones. He adds that the mages spend their time either handling missions commissioned by the state or immersing themselves in arcane research. The state gives them full freedom to use their time to hone their skills. The master leads Alan to the staircase that winds up to the Great Hall, the central hub of all tower operations. He tells Alan to head upstairs, mentioning that he's already cleared most of his registration with the staff. Lord Klaus explains he has more pressing matters to handle and wishes the young apprentice good luck. Alan starts climbing the stairs, trying to recall the exact words the master just said while catching his breath. Just then, the Great Hall comes into view, spreading wide and grand before him, signaling the start of whatever awaits inside. He looks over at the magical chaos before him and can barely process the scene. Young grimoire smiths float around like they've got anti-gravity spells, flipping through massive books while giant golden gears grind away in the background. Honestly, it's enough to make anyone's brain short-circuit. Just then, a voice calls out behind him. He turns to see the receptionist, who was twiddling her thumbs waiting for him. She finally drags his registration across the finish line and slaps an identification badge into his hands. It's a mana stone he has to keep on himself at all times, like an ID badge. The badge contains a water attribute mana stone, which reflects his role as an apprentice. She explains further that he can rank up over time by racking up achievements through missions and research. Basically, work hard and maybe get paid more for it. As his rank goes up, he'll gain more authority and fatter paychecks. Alan doesn't waste a second and wonders if there are any missions he can start. The receptionist directs his attention to the giant memoria book he was drooling over earlier. She explains every mission log and research record. From the tower's humble beginnings to the present, everything is stuffed into its pages. She tells him to place his hand on the memoria, and it logs him in. The system prompts him to state his request, and she adds that he can use voice commands too. He awkwardly blurts out that he wants to accept a mission, and the memoria responds with a detailed list of every available task, like some overachieving Amazon shopping menu. Then comes the rule lecture. New apprentices are required to pair with a higher-ranking grimoire smith for missions, and the master had already assigned him his first one. But Alan gives that suggestion the cold shoulder and picks the Orvane investigation mission instead. The receptionist nearly chokes on her own words, warning that apprentices usually tackle missions that tough only right before graduating. She continues, adding that the assignment involves fighting dangerous monsters, but Alan waves her off and accepts before she can even finish. This makes her pull her hair, convinced the mission is a death wish even with Master Lucas acting as his partner. Our boy is confident he can handle a minor scuffle. If it's on the mission list, he figures it can't be that impossible. He then asks the receptionist who Lucas actually is, to which she reveals he's the only apprentice personally trained by Lord Klaus. She keeps going, bragging that reaching an intermediate rank usually takes 10 years, but Master Lucas somehow smashed it in just 4. A girl nearby overhears and jumps on the hype train. She is a fan because the tower's master never takes apprentices, yet Lucas was handpicked. She believes he is the only one capable of inheriting the old master's research. She asks if there could possibly be a bigger honor than having Master Lucas as a partner. Meanwhile, the background crowd starts whispering and gossiping about Alan, debating if he's really an apprentice or just another lowly slave. Our hero, naturally intrigued by Alan's fancy introduction, decides he needs to check him out personally. On his way there, our boy sulks at the thought of being stuck with a partner until he levels up. But when he finally opens the door, he's greeted by a human tornado disguised as a clean freak. The guy zaps around the room, scrubbing and arranging things at insane speed before finally noticing he has a visitor. He mistakes our boy for his master, and Alan asks who this whirlwind even is. The guy assumes the visitor must be Alan and introduces himself as Lucas Valen, his senior in apprenticeship. Lucas immediately guesses the young one probably came from the Great Hall and has already been briefed on their first mission. Sizing him up like a pro, he assumes the kid is scared and reassures him that he'll guide and stick with him every step of the way. But our boy just hands him the mission document and says he's not nervous at all. Instead, he's taken on a completely different mission, one Lucas will probably want to see. The senior blinks in surprise when he notices the Southern Forest listed. He knows this is not exactly the textbook first mission, but the official seal disagrees. Our hero casually asks when they'll be leaving while rifling through some books on Lucas's shelves, like he's already making himself at home. Lucas explains they can take the morning carriage, which will drop them off in 2 hours. But Alan cuts him off mid-explanation and says they'll leave in the morning. Bro just walks away, leaving the senior confused. Lucas stands there like a statue and the mission documents slip from his hands. He mumbles something before he snaps back into cleaning mode and resumes turning the room spotless like Captain Levi. Our hero climbs the stairs and glances back at the senior, thinking he's actually a pretty decent guy. At the same time, he reminds himself they are about to set off on a big mission. He grabs every book he can reach and starts reading like his life depends on it. His goal is clear: gain enough knowledge to earn the right to participate in the grimoire selection ceremony. After studying for so long, Alan falls asleep and then wakes up a few hours later. As he gets up, he notices Lucas, who is busy with his research. His eyes then land on the absolute specimens of mana stones sitting on the counter, and he instantly falls in love. Just then, the senior apprentice notices him and apologizes if he woke him up. Alan denies that and instead picks up one of the stones while he gets completely mesmerized by it. Lucas then asks if he can see the ancient magic inside them, which only he and the old man can normally see. Our boy then notices the golden frames around them and says that each one looks different. He then points out that 2 of them share the exact same framework too. Lucas finally explains that the designs differ based on whether they are attribute or derivative jewels. That completely flies over Alan's head, so the senior apprentice breaks it down and explains that mana stones, which contain ancient magic, are called jewels. These jewels are purified so that a magic user can properly use them. After confirming that Alan is following along, he continues and says that all jewels fall into these 2 categories. The wing frame jewel can manipulate natural forces and is known as an attribute jewel. On the other hand, the plant frame jewel is known as a derivative jewel, which can perform supernatural skills such as supervision and superhearing. He then opens a grimoire and points out that the patterns on the left and right pages differ for each type. Alan quickly catches on and realizes that these circuits are designed to draw out magic power. It is because of these grimoires that people like them can use ancient magic. Placing his hand on the book, Lucas explains that grimoires act as a lifeline for their users. Alan recalls that Klaus mentioned something similar before. The more compatible a user is with their grimoire, the more power they can draw from it. That makes our hero wonder if grimoires are made for specific individuals and how that even works. The senior apprentice then calls him out and asks if he took this risky job just to get his own grimoire faster. Alan admits shamelessly that he did, since he wants a reliable partner for his journey as soon as possible. Moving on to the next day, the 2 finally make their way to the Southern Forest. Lucas complains that the ground feels too muddy because of the rain. Meanwhile, our boy looks around at the village and wonders if this is all there is, since the place looks completely abandoned, which surprises Lucas as well. As they move forward, Alan asks if the mine is nearby. The senior apprentice confirms that the entrance should be right next to the village. At that moment, something suddenly jumps out in front of them. Seeing the nasty gremlins, our boy realizes that these must be the beasts they were sent to eliminate. Getting ready to fight, Lucas asks our boy if he has the grimoire that was issued to him. As the creatures close in, Alan recalls that he was given fire water and earth attribute stones. Even though fire would be the most effective, it would burn down the forest. Lucas then tells Alan to stay close to him at all times for safety, but our boy brushes it off and declares that he can handle himself. With that, he summons his grimoire and prepares to fight. Alan places the earthstone into his grimoire as he confidently states that he can protect himself without much trouble at all. He places his hand on the ground, which sends sharp rocks shooting upward toward the wolf creature's core stones and kills them instantly. Lucas feels surprised to see that the newbie knows exactly where to strike, and Alan proudly explains that he read about it in his book just the previous day. The senior looks clearly impressed and calls him worthy of being the master's apprentice without hesitation. He allows Alan to go all out and joins him as they take down several wolf monsters together in quick succession. However, they suddenly hear a scream from a distance and turn to see a village guard under attack by one of the creatures. Lucas quickly clears a path by blasting the monsters away, but it becomes obvious that they will not reach the guard in time at their current pace. At that moment, Lucas grabs Alan and tells him to hold his grimoire tightly as he summons the dancing wind Istrafika. The spell launches them forward at incredible speed, and as soon as they close in, Lucas throws Alan straight toward the monsters without hesitation. Alan forms a large circle and summons multiple sharp spikes that pierce through the creatures and destroy them completely. They reach the village guard, who expresses relief upon seeing the grimoire smiths arrive just in time to save him. After that, they send him away to a safer location before continuing their mission ahead. Soon, they encounter the parent monster that appears to be the source of the entire brood, causing trouble in the area. At that moment, Alan notices something unusual about its core stone, as its center emits a faint glow, similar to a mana stone. He asks Lucas whether a monster can be killed without destroying its core stone, which sounds strange since no one has attempted such a method before. Alan explains that he can clearly see a light coming from the core stone, almost identical to the glow of a mana stone itself. However, Lucas admits that he cannot see anything unusual at all, which creates confusion between them. This makes Alan wonder if he alone can see this light and whether it differs from a normal mana stone in some way. He tells Lucas to trust him and follow his lead if he truly wants to understand what he sees, and he explains that they need to incapacitate the monster first. The blonde senior realizes that Alan sounds completely serious about obtaining the stone, and asks again if he truly sees a light within it. Alan's expression remains firm and unwavering, which convinces Lucas that he is telling the truth, so he decides to go along with the plan since the boy might actually see something beyond his perception. He tells Alan that he will support him and asks if he already has a plan prepared for this situation. The hero explains that he will restrain the monster with the Earthstone, while Lucas cuts through the core using his wind ability at the right moment. Lucas feels impressed by the idea and quickly uses Windbind to halt the monster for a short time. Alan steps in with his ground ability and imagines the earth around the creature turning into extremely fine sand to trap it more effectively. He refines the sand as much as possible and then uses his Waterstone to flood the area completely. The monster gets trapped in the thick mud that forms, and Lucas follows up with a Windblade attack, but it fails to produce any result at all. They realize that the creature has deflected the strike since the wind attack lacks enough power to break through its defense. Alan starts to think rapidly before he suddenly comes up with a clever solution that could turn the situation around. He asks Lucas to use his wind attack once more, and at the same time he brings out his Firestone because fire can cut through tougher materials with enough intensity. He releases a stream of fire that merges with the wind attack and forms a much stronger combined strike than before. He pushes the wind intensity even higher before they unleash the full force of the attack directly at the monster without hesitation. Their risky idea works perfectly, and they manage to remove the core stone from the creature's body in one clean move. Before Lucas can react or celebrate the success, Alan moves instantly and catches the stone midair without missing the chance. Lucas states that he did not expect them to succeed like that, but Alan is more interested in the core stone. The senior apprentice thinks that the kid is already close to an intermediate grimoire smith. The move our hero used earlier to sync his magic with someone else shows that he has the natural talent to pull off crazy stunts. The blondie sighs and says that he has his work cut out for him. Alan then points the stone forward and happily claims that there really is a golden light in it, but it looks faint compared to a mana stone. Even after looking closely, Lucas admits that he cannot see it at all and suggests that they should ask the master once they return. If the demon core really holds some ancient magic, then there is a chance to turn it into a weapon. Just then, some soldiers show up and call out as they ask if everything is fine. Lucas informs them that the demonic beast got sent on a one-way trip straight to hell and asks if the villagers are safe. All of a sudden, our boy freezes for a moment and wonders what just happened. It feels like someone tried to get his attention. The senior apprentice snaps him back to reality and tells him to show his grimoire and jewels so he can assess them. Our boy just stands there and looks back toward the mine while Lucas calls out to him to hurry up. Sometime later, everyone in the village celebrates as they realize they made it out safely. Lucas announces that his grimoire and jewels are working fine as well. The two then decide that they will head to the mine. The senior apprentice explains that whenever a mana stone vein is found, the grimoire smiths must confirm whether they are real mana stones. However, Alan only hears mana stones and instantly drifts into his imagination. Snapping out of it, he tells Lucas that they need to hurry. Just as the two are about to leave, an old man suddenly shouts at them to stop. He warns them not to enter the mine or Lord Aonuma will get angry. That catches Lucas's interest as he wonders who that is. The old man goes on a full rant and says that the Lord is the guardian of this forest who made the mine his home. The blondie plays along and nods to everything. A young man tries to stop the old man, but the geezer keeps going and blames the younger generation. He claims that ever since people stopped worshipping the Lord, demons started attacking them. While the young man holds him back, the two excuse themselves and quickly leave. As they enter the mine, Lucas explains that Aonuma is most likely a phantom beast. However, he has never heard of such rumors before today. Phantom beasts do not fully fall under monsters or animals, since their bodies are made of mana stones. Seeing the stars in Alan's eyes after hearing about mana stones, Lucas starts to understand how his tiny brain works. The rumors say that phantom beasts live for a very long time and can use ancient magic without limits. Even though some are confirmed to exist, there are still many that the Magic Tower has not recorded. Just like Lord Aonuma, these beings are often worshipped as divine figures, which makes our boy wonder if there is one here too. Lucas replies that if there is one, then it would likely be an unregistered phantom beast. He tells him not to expect to find one so easily since they are considered divine beings. Legends say that sometimes phantom beasts grant blessings to mages they approve of. Even though this is documented in history, most people still treat it like a fairy tale. Alan drifts into thought as he wonders how a phantom beast would look if it is made of mana stones. He also wonders if the voice he felt earlier belonged to one and gets excited at the idea of meeting one. The senior apprentice snaps him out of it and says that they have reached the area. Alan looks ahead and immediately gets blown away by the sight. As he touches the crystals, our hero almost tears up because of their beauty. Lucas explains that mana stone surveying is easy for them since they can see the golden light inside them. Our boy then asks if there are tools for those who cannot, which makes the blonde proud that he is actually paying attention. All of a sudden, Alan freezes again and realizes that it is the same feeling as before. He fails to notice the ground breaking beneath him and falls through a hole which makes Lucas nearly have a heart attack. Screaming as loud as he can, Alan manages to survive as he hits the ground with a heavy thud. He then looks up and sees more mana stones glowing brightly and gets mesmerized by their beauty again. Staring at the golden light, he feels shocked as he wonders if all of these are real mana stones. The rock nerd is so mesmerized by the sight that he does not even register his worried senior yelling his name from above. Lucas tells him to stay put while he figures out a safe way down. But Alan isn't so nice. He refuses to not explore a crystal cavern that looks like the biggest vein of diamond ore on the server. As he walks in deeper, he senses something is off, like the walls are circling around him. A second later, he blinks in confusion at the sight of a massive head and a curved horn poking straight out of the wall ahead. The enormous figure shifts again, and he realizes it is a living creature formed entirely from mana crystals. The fish-like beast glides above him, giving him a next-level aquarium show without the glass wall. As he wonders whether this is actually a phantom beast, he hears its voice echo directly inside his mind. The creature confirms that humans have indeed called it that before. Curious, Alan asks if the voice in his head belongs to it. The megalodon-sized phantom beast explains that his magic-seeing eyes drew it toward him. In all its years, it has never encountered a human with eyes like his, ones that view the world through the same lens as the ancient spirit creatures. Our boy asks why others cannot see it, and the beast admits that even phantom beasts do not fully understand the reason. The only clue it recalls is something an old friend once mentioned, that blessings like his are granted to rare humans loved by the universe. Hearing that he is somehow favored by the universe fills him with a strangely pleasant feeling in his chest. Then, he reaches out to touch the phantom beast, curious about what such a creature made of magic diamonds feels like. Its surface feels cool and calming to the touch, smooth in a way that instantly relaxes him. The sensation is so pleasant that he blurts out that the crystal fish is beautiful. That simple praise makes the beast proud, and it promises to brag to the 7 Star Kings that a human admired it. This is the first time Alan has ever heard of the kings. According to the beast, they are the highest tier beings among phantom creatures, entities that have lived longer than any other living thing in the world. Just imagining that there are existences even greater than this shimmering giant sends excitement rushing through Alan. The phantom magacarp seems to realize it has revealed more than it planned. Growing sleepy, it says farewell and mentions it is time for a nap. Before it fades away, Alan quickly asks if it can share where the 7 spirit kings might be found, and what it knows about ancient magic. The phantom beast tells him to relax, because he is someone blessed by the universe. There is no doubt he will cross paths with the 7 Star Kings one day, and his special eyes will guide him to the origin of magic itself. Before he can ask more questions, the creature assures him the Star Kings will explain everything when the time is right. It leaves him with a small blessing as a parting gift. Seeing what it leaves behind, he is completely speechless for once. It is a scale, said to be filled with hundreds of years' worth of pure mana. The beast wishes him luck in reaching the primal mana stone, a legendary gem whose radiance outshines every other stone in existence. Then it flaps its fins away, and Alan snaps back to reality just as Lucas finally reaches him. When his senior demands to know what he is holding, Alan casually replies that it is a phantom beast's blessing. Bro stares at him for a long second, clearly debating whether the fall scrambled his brain. He insists that a phantom beast literally handed him its scale, but Lucas is not buying that nonsense. Back at their master's lab, Alan shares the same story about his shiny new scale. Klaus asks Lucas for a clean report on what exactly happened down there, but he tells him to leave out the part about the phantom beast and the demon core. He says he will personally discuss those matters with the other mage lords. Then he turns to Alan and finally delivers the words the kid has been waiting to hear. Lord Klaus states that since Alan found the material, it only makes sense that he should be the one to refine it and carve it into a magic stone. He grants him full authority to use anything inside his research lab. While he arranges the specialized tools required for the task, however, he instructs Alan to go and choose his own grimoire first. Just the thought of selecting his very own grimoire sends a surge of excitement through him, and he grabs his senior before rushing out of the room. The two arrive at a massive gate bound tightly in heavy chains. Once it opens, Alan steps inside and finds himself staring at an enormous library, shelves upon shelves stacked to the ceiling with countless grimoires waiting to be chosen. The bells begin to ring as they announce the start of the grimoire selection ceremony, and all the grimoire smiths turn with excitement to see who will choose a grimoire this year. However, their expressions shift when they notice that the participant is just an unassuming slave boy who has only stayed there for 2 days. They begin to question how someone like him even gained the right to take part in such an important ceremony at all. They assume that his participation itself feels foolish, since a slave like him could never realistically hope to receive a grimoire in the first place. A girl points out that a grimoire once glowed for Lord Klaus during his ceremony, but another guy quickly dismisses that claim as nothing more than an exaggerated urban legend. He argues that he checked the records in the memoria, and insists that it only showed a slight twinkle instead of anything dramatic. His receptionist watches with clear anticipation, and wonders if Alan truly intends to go through with this attempt, despite the odds. He reaches the entrance of a massive chamber, and asks if that is where the grimoires are kept, and Lucas confirms that the place is known as the Grimoire Archive. He explains that it serves as the storage for grimoires that still wait for a master to claim them. Lucas tells Alan to pay close attention and explains that a grimoire chooses its user, not the other way around under any circumstance. He warns him never to touch the grimoires placed on the shelves, because one will come forward on its own if it accepts him. If nothing responds, he must leave empty-handed without forcing anything at all. So Alan clearly understands that no selection means no reward. Lucas further explains that this rule is exactly why it is called the right to participate in the ceremony, rather than a guaranteed outcome. He adds that mages who lack sufficient experience often fail to gain acknowledgement from any grimoire at this stage. In that case, Alan would need to refine his abilities through missions before he earns another chance to participate again in the future. Before Alan steps inside, Lucas hands him a unique golden ball that immediately draws his attention with curiosity. Before Alan can even question it, the ball suddenly grows wings and begins to fly around on its own. Lucas explains that it is a mystery mousetool, which allows them to observe everything Alan sees from a distance. He adds that this exists purely to prevent cheating, and that broadcasting the feed to the memoria serves as standard procedure for every participant. Lucas tells him that he must already be appearing on the memoria at that moment, and the other grimoire smiths watch his surprised expression as it reminds them of their own ceremonies in the past. Lucas reassures him not to worry and says that he will wait outside for him before wishing him good luck with a calm smile. Alan then steps into the archive and begins to walk forward while he takes in the unfamiliar surroundings. Soon he notices that the entire place feels completely silent, yet he senses something breathing, as if the space itself lives like a creature. He slowly turns around when a faint light catches his attention, and then realizes that not all the books in the archive are actual grimoires. He begins to wonder if the glowing ones are the real grimoires as he stands in front of one such radiant book with curiosity. He feels tempted to reach out and take it, but he quickly recalls Lucas's warning and stops himself before making a mistake. Alan grows slightly frustrated with the situation as he questions how he is supposed to know whether a grimoire has chosen him or not. Just then, he turns around again and briefly catches sight of a strange beast that vanishes almost instantly without a trace. He wonders if it might be a demon at first, but then he realizes that it must be something entirely different from what he expected. Just then, a strange wolf appears in front of him with a mark on its head which catches him off guard. He yells at the others to stay alert and starts chasing the creature. As he moves through the narrow hallways, he finally reaches a clearing where the wolf sits on top of a horizontal column. Alan gets completely blown away by the majestic scene in front of him. The wolf then stares straight at him, which makes him flinch, but then it slowly lowers its head. All of a sudden, the mark on its head starts glowing brightly and fills the entire area with light. Our hero stands frozen as the light suddenly rushes toward him and forces him back. The small drone keeps recording everything as a grimoire appears in the sky. Meanwhile, the onlookers get shocked and start gossiping as they wonder if that purple glow is normal. The nobles begin to question how much power Alan actually has and whether the rumors about the master were true. Even when Lord Klaus found his grimoire, it never glowed this brightly. The teacher confirms that the glow is definitely abnormal and wonders if it connects to our boy's affinity with ancient magic. Coming back to Alan, he holds out his hands as the grimoire slowly descends. The moment he grabs it, he feels the flow of mana which pulses like a living heartbeat. He gets overwhelmed by how warm it feels and hugs the grimoire tightly as he claims it as his own. All the while, the floating camera continues to project the entire scene. Watching through a floating projection, Lord Klaus admits to himself that the boy was talented, sure, but he did not realize he was this special. Alan returns to the lab and presents the grimoire to his master with barely contained pride. The old man comments that it is a dusty, ancient-looking book, but he made a solid choice. He tells our boy to treasure it and invites him to take a seat, because they need to have a serious talk. While he enjoys sipping his tea like a Brit, his master brings up the story about the phantom beast's blessing again. With a firm tone, he asks Alan to repeat exactly what the creature said, word for word. Alan explains that it called him a child favored by the universe, and mentioned his eyes can see ancient magic like other ancient beings. It also said something vague about the spirit kings guiding him to the origin of magic. After hearing that, Lord Klaus decides to reveal something that is not common knowledge. It is said that the Star Kings are spirit creatures who rule over the territories of the 5 major kingdoms. Alan notes that 5 does not equal 7, clearly confused. Lucas steps in and explains that no one knows where the remaining 2 kings are hiding. Some believe those 2 wander freely across the continent as they please. Even the maestro admits that, despite his lifelong search, he has not found a single solid trace of them. Setting that aside, Alan asks about the origin of magic. His master answers that it most likely refers to the primal stone. No one knows where the oldest magic stone recorded in written history is located, or what kind of magic it even contains. It remains a mystery unsolved by the greatest minds of past centuries, and no amount of overthinking has cracked it so far. Lord Klaus believes that humans might finally understand understand ancient magic if they can study the primal stone. Alan is the only one who can find all the Star Kings. But honestly, our boy does not need the extra push. He is already hyped just thinking of how mesmerizing a blessing from a Spirit King would look like. Already seeing a Phantom Beast scale shines brighter than diamonds. He boldly declares he will make it his life mission to travel the entire continent and find every last Spirit King. Before he charges off on that dream, however, his master warns him that proper preparation will decide whether he survives the journey or not. Right now, only the higher-ups know that demon attacks in the western regions are steadily increasing. The current theory is that demons are invading human territory to hunt down hidden spirit beasts and eliminate them. The Stone Guardian Kingdom recently lost their own spirit beast, which supports that theory. Because of that, Alan cannot afford to be careless on his journey. More than cautious, he has to grow strong enough to face demons head-on. With that warning delivered, Lord Klaus tells our boy to head to the tower's workshop district and get his grimoire repaired. Later, inside one of the workshops, Alan feels shy watching all the different kinds of people moving around. While he peeks around a corner like a suspicious raccoon, an elf suddenly appears and asks if he came to repair his book. Although Alan is not a fan of the mini heart attack, he decides to trust the strangely charismatic craftsman with his grimoire. After examining the book for a brief moment, the elf claims he can finish the work quickly, catching him by surprise with how fast the assessment was. The cheerful elf also comments that it is a quality grimoire, so it deserves proper care. Alan nods, but he cannot stop staring at the guy's sharp, pointy ears. The smith realizes the kid clearly hasn't seen many of his kind before. He explains that elves like him specialize in this craft because forest folk possess tools and techniques that humans simply do not have access to. He casually adds that the Stone Guardians, basically this world's dwarves, run the magic stone workshops. Alan immediately connects the dots and understands that this smith likely crafts all sorts of magic tools powered by stones. Trying to stay casual, Alan asks about the guardian spirit protecting the elven forest. The elf confirms its existence and says he is open to a few questions. That turns out to be a mistake, because he bombards him with so many rapid-fire questions that the elf quickly retracts the generous offer. Once the grimoire is repaired, he tips our hero about someone who might know far more about the guardian spirit than any regular elf. He seems to have taken a liking to our overly curious protagonist, so he shares one more small secret. Soon, a caravan from the forest will arrive, and a ridiculously strong warrior usually escorts it. That escort might be Alan's best chance at getting real answers. Meanwhile, outside the magic tower, an elf lounging on top of a caravan roof looks completely bored out of his mind. The escort tells him they are almost at their destination. He remembers the time he dueled with Klaus when the old chap was younger and absolutely annihilated him. Since then, he hasn't faced any real competition, and wonders if this time he might finally encounter someone who puts up a good fight. The next day, our boy looks like he's about to collapse after pulling an all-nighter, polishing the magic scale like his life depends on it. By now, Lucas isn't even surprised to see him laughing maniacally over a rock. His senior tells him the traveling merchant market has opened and invites him to go outside to touch some grass. Walking through the bustling bazaar, Alan is completely awestruck by all the strange and fascinating items on display. One of the elf merchants shows him an intricate torch tool that's popular with the elves. Hearing about the forest people, he suddenly remembers the real agenda for the day. He glances around, spotting elves everywhere, but none of them look like the ridiculously strong warrior he's looking for. As he continues searching, he comes across a trader selling caged animals. Seeing the creatures treated like he was as a kid fills him with anger. Right then, a loud boom erupts nearby and everyone runs from a monster that broke free. It looks like an ordinary animal at first glance, but his eyes recognize there is something wrong with it. The elves confirm it's an enraged Morlock and order all the humans to flee, but Alan isn't a listener. The forest folk attempt to fight back against the Morlock, which is usually a passive animal that's also weak to water magic. To calm this one down, they need a water mage. However, the Morlock nearly incinerates one of the elves with its fire breath. Alan jumps in to save the day. The forest folk stare in disbelief. He is just a small human wielding a novice grimoire, yet he stopped a monster far larger than himself. But instead of offering thanks, the annoying elf from before yells at him, asking if he doesn't care about living anymore. He appreciates Alan saving them, but insists this is a job for grown-ups, not some novice brat. My guy is seriously pissed off by that remark. It's painfully obvious that his comrades' magic and arrows are so weak they can only tickle the Morlock at best. As he starts walking away, he hears the elf mutter that things would have been over already if Shumiel were here. The lazy goofball is napping on a rooftop while the rest of the team is out there fighting on the front lines. Just then, the Morlock hurls 3 fireballs at once. Our boy reacts instantly, manipulating the earth to form a wall of sand that stops them cold. With his new grimoire, his control has improved so much that he rides the waves of sand like a gangsta. Mid-air, he swaps out the earth stone for a water one, combining the 2 elements to bind the oversized monkey in an elemental cage. The forest folk are stunned normally. Only a demon could manipulate sand like that. They thank him and shout for him to run as the Morlock tears through its restraints and lunges at him. Alan, of course, refuses to retreat. His incredible performance does not go unnoticed by a certain warrior who has been silently observing this whole time. The warrior studies the human novice, noting the skill and how he fights the Morlock, but he doesn't see them finishing it off in a million years. Meanwhile, Alan is confident his magic eyes can spot the creature's weak point. Just as he prepares to strike, however, an arrow slices past him. The Morlock's head gets blown right off its body. A hand lands on his shoulder, and he hears a voice compliment directly in his ear. Our boy can't even sense where it came from, but he immediately realizes this person is leagues above every other elf around. The irritating elf from earlier calls the guy Shumiel, confirming that he is the strongest fighter they had been waiting for all along. All the forest folk swarm around Shumiel like fans, but the previous elf grabs him by the collar, visibly triggered with his smug attitude for one-shotting the Morlock. He reminds Shumiel of his own status. Shumiel's tone turns serious as he fires back, questioning whether they remember what their status really is. A party of seasoned elven warriors should honestly be ashamed, having to rely on a human kid to save them from a single monster. Shumiel turns to Alan and smirks, calling him a pipsqueak who packs quite a punch. Alan stays unfazed, showing he's not easily triggered, which makes Shumiel like him more. But his eyes are not focused on the elven warrior. They are locked on the Morlock, which is somehow moving even though its head was blown off. A wise man once said, "People die after they're killed." Alan knows this, so the only reason the creature is still alive is probably the magic stone embedded in its chest, just like Malik's experiments. The warrior happily offers to back Alan up, turning it into a test to see if the kid can actually slay the berserk Morlock. Alan the negotiator proposes a deal. He will accept the terms in exchange for a favor once the fight is over. The cocky elf grins, thinking the tiny pipsqueak talks pretty big for his size. With that, our boy switches to the water magic stone and goes all out, eager to test out the power output of his new grimoire. The elves around them witness the impressive display of power, and their mouths remain wide open in shock. Alan, on the other hand, keeps enjoying the fight and continues attacking the Morlock without slowing down. He then asks Shumiel if he can see a black spot on the monster that is pulsing, and tells him to aim right at it. The elf pulls out an arrow and shoots it cleanly, hitting the target and forcing the dark crystal to separate from the Morlock. The moment the crystal gets removed, the monster's body begins to swell from all sides, making it clear that it is about to self-destruct. The elves panic and shout for everyone to run for their lives, but just as the explosion is about to happen, the nerdy boy activates his water magic and surrounds the monster at the last second. Everyone turns back in shock, realizing that they have been saved. After dealing with the monster, Alan walks over to the black crystal that Shumiel knocked out and picks it up. As he studies it closely, he notices that it looks similar to the ones Malik used for his own schemes, which makes it clear that Malik might be involved in this somehow. Just then, the clingy elf Shumiel rushes in and hugs the boy tightly, praising him for all the effort he has put in. Alan quickly takes the chance to ask what he has been wanting to know and jumps straight to the topic of phantom beasts. He asks if Shumiel knows anything about the phantom beast in the elven lands and what kind of magic it uses. Hearing such a sudden question surprises Shumiel at first, but when he looks at Alan, he only sees a curious kid who wants to understand the world. He pats his head and tells him that he also carries a scent similar to a phantom beast. He then explains that the phantom beast of the forest kin is known as one that can read the winds. He introduces the phantom beast as a high and mighty, cool-looking eagle that is capable of moving across the barriers of time. He further explains that the beast can see everything, and that would include their conversation just now, and he uses this as an excuse that the beast might get angry at him for revealing so much. He tells the boy that if he truly wants to see the beast himself, he should take part in the festival that is held once every 50 years in the land of the forest kin. He explains that all he needs to do is defeat him and the rest of the guardians to earn a guaranteed chance to meet the king. He raises the boy's interest even more by adding that the next festival is going to be held in just 2 years. The boy, however, chooses the shorter path and challenges Shumiel right there on the spot. He argues that if he defeats him now, there would be no need to wait for any festival. The clingy elf finds the boy interesting, but reminds him that there are other guardians as well, including himself, and he would have to defeat all of them. He tells the boy to train properly for the next 2 years if he wants to stand a chance, and promises that he will give his best when the time comes. Alan confidently replies that he is going to win for sure. Just then, Lord Klaus arrives and calls out to the boy. He takes the black crystal from him, and then realizes that the elf standing beside him is none other than Shumiel. The maestro reveals that he had fought against all 7 guardians before, and managed to win against all of them except for Shumiel. The clingy elf asks the geezer if the boy is his apprentice, but before he can continue the conversation, his escort comes running toward him, and Shumiel quickly leaves to avoid getting dragged into any responsibilities. While leaving, he reminds the boy that he will be waiting for him at the festival in 2 years. The old geezer then asks the boy if he truly wants to go to the Forest Kin's festival. He explains that he would need to become much stronger, and at the same time, he admits that he himself can no longer take on that challenge, while still believing that Alan might actually have a chance. Alan starts daydreaming about his victory, and how much he wants to meet the great eagle he has just heard about. A few days later, Klaus studies the material he recovered from the boy. He comes to the conclusion that someone might have planted that object inside the beast, and begins to worry that the boy could be facing even more trouble in the near future. Just as he gets this uneasy feeling, he receives a call and learns that there is an emergency, as the demon army is heading toward the southern city. Meanwhile, Alan finishes preparing the phantom beast's mana stone and feels eager to test the magic stored inside it. He quickly tries to use it while Klaus shouts at him to stop using magic inside the room, but he is already too late. Lucas and Alan's faces light up as the blue glow intensifies. But just as quickly, they get blue-balled as the magic dies down almost as fast as it appeared. Both are left scratching their heads, He clearly sensed a massive surge of mana, but every time he tries to control it, it slips through his fingers like water. Lord Klaus explains that the magic is far more complex than normal ancient spells, requiring a high skill level to fully wield its power. That reminds Alan of the Phantom Fish Spirit's words that the magic may be tough to master, but it was confident he will eventually learn to control it. Putting that aside, Klaus informs the two that the demon army in the south is more active than ever. Because of that, they have no choice but to send every mage above intermediate level, including Lucas, to deal with the threat. Alan wants to go too, but his master insists he stay back in the tower. When he protests with puppy eyes, Klaus acknowledges that Alan certainly has the talent to fight. However, he has a more important task waiting for him. The next day, Alan heads up the tower. He overhears two mages whispering about reinforcements being sent to the south and feels sad that he got left out. Moving on, he walks to the counter to handle some admin work. As soon as the blonde girl spots him, she starts hovering around him. The girl keeps yapping on and on, even though he is visibly annoyed by her existence. Right then, both of them freeze as the alarms blare. An announcement goes off, warning all mages to evacuate the tower because a high-level threat has escaped from prison. A senior mage rushes in, panicked, and orders the girl to call the magic lords immediately. He's visibly terrified, knowing that the escaped prisoner didn't leave a single guard alive. Chaos erupts as all the mages start running for their lives. But Alan isn't about to hide. He decides to track down the threat before it escapes the tower. On the lower levels, he notices one of the doors is half open. Peeking inside, he finds the person he least expects. A flash of bitter memories hit him like a truck. Without hesitation, he pulls out his grimoire ready to strike. His target, Lord Malik, appears strangely calm at first. But after seeing him, the old man's body starts contorting, and he starts to talk nonsense. The psycho rambles that he has the right to reshape the world, claiming it was bestowed by his master. He swallows a crimson magic stone. Malik blatantly declares that it will be a great honor for Alan to witness his mission firsthand, which is to pull an Itachi on the kingdom. Alan rapidly casts water magic to stop the threat. Black flames erupt around Malik, who states he will become known as the 8th Star King. The Mad Mage smashes Alan aside and blasts a hole through the wall, escaping to the outside. Our hero's eyes widen in shock at Malik's appearance. His body looks like he was gooning for months, leaving nothing but skin and bones. Mildly shaken, Alan is determined to stop the madman before he takes innocent lives and gives chase. Suddenly, his necklace announces a mission to all mages: eliminate any demons in the city and save the citizens. Alarm bells ring in his head as he tries to process what the warning means. From a high vantage point overlooking the city, he sees demons running rampant, terrorizing the people at every turn. He tears through all demons in sight as he races through the capital, trying to make sense of the chaos. Standing atop a fountain, he spots Malik half-naked, shouting about how strong he's become. The Mad Mage unleashes his flames, engulfing all the mages surrounding him. But Alan intervenes, stating he should try taking on someone his own size. The Mad Mage summons all kinds of demons to swarm him, but Alan blows them away with ease. Malik barely flinches because his level of power is nowhere near enough to challenge him. The half-demon, half-man makes a generous offer to kill him with minimal pain if he apologizes. Alan refuses, politely reminding him that he's the one who should be begging. He already got humiliated by him when he was just a little boy. Malik's fragile ego shatters, and he drops the Mr. Nice Psychopath act. He increases the number of monsters attacking Alan, and reinforcements soon arrive. Other mages mistake Malik for just another demon and prepare to strike. Alan tries to warn them that the escaped prisoner is dangerous, but they ignore him. They see him as just a novice half their size who doesn't know what he's talking about. They immediately regret that decision. Malik channels the cursed magic stone's power for the first time. While the madman uses his forbidden powers, the mages' combined efforts manage to overwhelm the shithead, splitting his limbs apart. But they snap back together within seconds right after, good as new. Watching him regenerate even after decapitation, Alan struggles to figure out how to beat this monster. He can't wrap his mind around how Malik even became a demon in the first place. Then he notices icicles lodged around Malik's shoulders, and a magic stone at his feet. The half-demon scoops it up, thinking he was a fool to assume he needed powerful magic stones to become stronger. He crushes the precious gem right in front of Alan just to trigger him. Malik flaunts the full extent of his demon transformation, power more than enough to erase everyone in the capital from existence. After that, he plans to rain fire on the Beast Kingdom and all other lands until the entire continent recognizes him as the 8th Star King. All the mages watching lose hope, convinced there's nothing more they can do. But there's still a beacon of hope. Alan calls Malik the piece of trash he is, and swears he'll be the one to throw the German cockroach back in the dumpster he crawled out of. The Mad Mage launches countless thorny vines, challenging to see him try. Alan dodges nimbly, casting the spell he got as a blessing for the first time in a real fight. His momentum stalls, however, when a vine stabs him in the shoulder. Malik mocks him, asking where all that bravado from before disappeared. On the surface, it seems like he failed, but deep inside, he senses a violent storm building, energy enough to eviscerate Malik 10 times over. Tired of toying with the thorn in his side, Malik goes in for one last killing strike. Yet his vine never reaches Alan, who feels a spirit presence by his side. For the first time, he successfully completes the spell he received as a blessing. A blindingly radiant light bursts from his hand, shooting into the sky like a comet. The phantom Magikarp materializes out of thin air, its massive form shimmering with raw mana.